Paris, July 6th, 1819. A little after 10 in the evening. The Tivoli gardens are packed. Several thousand spectators stand in the warm summer air, their faces lifted toward the sky, waiting. The balloon above them is small, not one of the huge aerostats used for state ceremonies. It is a narrow hydrogen balloon built for one person. Beneath it hangs a silver gondola, almost the size of a cradle. Inside sits a woman dressed in white, from the hem of her dress to the ribbon on her hat. Ostrich feathers rise above her head. In her hand, she holds a white flag. Around the balloon hang long pyrotechnic frames, rockets, cascades of fire, Bengal lights. She has been warned many times. She knows there is hydrogen above her head. In those years, hydrogen is a symbol of human progress, but it is also a material that does not forgive carelessness. Fire and hydrogen must never meet. But tonight, she climbs in again, because this is her work, her duty to the stage she has chosen for herself. Some people in the crowd beg her not to rise. Others, hungry for spectacle, urge her to continue. Sophie steps into the gondola and quietly says, "Let us go. This will be for the last time." Her name is Sophie Blanchard. She is 41 years old. She has made 66 balloon ascents. She has crossed the Alps by balloon. She has flown for an emperor and for a king. On the ground, she has spent her life as a small, shy woman who is easily frightened. But in the air, she is calm in a way almost no one else can be. Let us go back 41 years to a village near La Rochelle on the western coast of France. She is born Marie-Madeleine Sophie Armand in March 1778 into a Protestant family. Almost nothing from her childhood has survived. No letters, no school records, no family memories preserved through the years. She grows up small and fragile. People who know her describe her as a woman with delicate features, a weak-looking body, and a nervous character. She is easily startled by loud noises. She is terrified of carriages, the ordinary horse-drawn vehicles used by most people in France at the time, and she trembles when she has to ride in one. On the ground, she seems to move through life on tiptoe, always ready to step back. This is the first thing the world knows about her. Before the sky turns her into a legend, the earth has already taught her to be afraid. Around 1804, she marries Jean-Pierre Blanchard, the world's first professional balloonist. He is 25 years older than her. Years earlier, he had left his first wife and 4 children to follow ballooning across Europe. In 1785, he crosses the English Channel by balloon, the first person to do so. In 1793, he gives a balloon demonstration before George Washington in Philadelphia. By the time he marries Sophie, he is already famous, but his fame is fading and his debts are growing. But he has a business idea. The novelty of his ascents has begun to fade. Audiences are no longer paying as much as before. But a woman in a balloon, that is something Europe has not yet fully understood. On December 27th, 1804, in Marseille, Sophie makes her first ascent. Her husband takes her into the cold winter sky above the Mediterranean. When she comes back down to earth, she describes the feeling in 3 words. An incomparable feeling, something the earth cannot give her. She flies with him again and again. On August 18th, 1805, in Toulouse, Sophie rises alone. She becomes the first woman to pilot her own balloon. She is 27 years old. At last, she has found the place where fear finally becomes silent. Sophie is not the first woman in a balloon. That honor belongs to Elizabeth Thibault, an opera singer from Lyon, who rose above the city on June 4th, 1784, dressed as the goddess Minerva, and sang an aria as the balloon climbed. On that day, Thibault was 27. She made one single flight. Then she disappeared from history. Sophie is different. Sophie keeps flying. In February 1808, Jean-Pierre suffers a heart attack during a flight over The Hague. He falls from his balloon and never recovers. He dies in March 1809. He leaves Sophie only his debts. She has 2 choices: She can sell the balloon and disappear into the same poverty that had already swallowed her husband's first wife. Or she can rise, and she rises. To save money, she orders a much smaller silk balloon lifted by hydrogen. She sits in a small silver gondola shaped like a cradle, curved upward at both ends. The whole structure is light enough to rise with only a fraction of the gas her husband had used. She has no real choice. She is a widow with debts and no other profession. And this is when Europe falls in love with her. She begins to specialize in night flights. She rises after dark, alone, sometimes for the whole night, and drifts silently above the sleeping cities of France and Italy. From her gondola, she releases fireworks on small parachutes, lighting the darkness like falling stars. Her small white figure, hanging above the rooftops and lit from below by Bengal flames, looks to the audience like a vision, like a spirit, like something the world had not yet been able to imagine. Imagine standing in a Paris square in 1810, looking up at the night sky. There is still no photography, no airplanes, no screens of any kind. The sky above you is one unbroken darkness. Then, hundreds of feet above the rooftops, a small figure in white appears, surrounded by floating points of fire, silent as snow, carried by a wind no one on the ground can feel. It is in this world that Sophie Blanchard turns a familiar wonder into a new spectacle. Night flight, fireworks, and a female figure suspended high above the city roofs. Napoleon Bonaparte notices. His official aeronaut, André-Jacques Garnerin, has recently embarrassed himself. The balloon Garnerin launched for Napoleon's coronation in 1804 drifted uncontrollably across the continent and landed in Rome, near a tomb linked to the Emperor Nero. For Napoleon, this is a bad sign that cannot be ignored. He dismisses Garnerin and appoints Sophie in his place. She becomes aéronaute des fêtes officielles, aeronaut of the official celebrations. On June 24, 1810, she rises from the Champ de Mars to mark Napoleon's marriage to Marie-Louise of Austria. For the birth of Napoleon II, the only legitimate son of Napoleon and Marie-Louise of Austria, Sophie rises above Paris and drops leaflets announcing the news to the streets below. On June 23, 1811, she launches fireworks above the Palace of Saint-Cloud for the child's baptism, the child who is declared King of Rome, although he will never truly rule. On August 15, 1811, she flies above Milan for the emperor's birthday. Sophie outlives him. When Napoleon falls in 1814 and Louis XVIII returns to the throne, she rises from the Pont Neuf on May 4th to mark his formal entry into Paris. The new king watches her drift above the city and is so impressed that he gives her a new title, official aeronaut of the Restoration, the same woman, the same balloon, two opposite regimes. She has become the sky itself, indifferent to who rules the earth. Her flights are not safe. During a crossing of the Alps in April 1812, the temperature in the gondola falls so low that icicles form on her hands and face. In the thin air, she loses consciousness more than once. On September 21st, 1817, while returning from her 53rd ascent, she mistakes a marsh near Nantes for a safe landing place. The balloon catches in a tree, the gondola tips, and Sophie falls face first into the water, tangled in her own ropes. She would have drowned if help had not arrived in time, but she keeps flying. She turns flight into theatre. The sky is the stage, the balloon is the scenery. She is both the actress and the pilot. But every performance demands that the next one be even more impressive. And so we return to the Tivoli Gardens, to the white dress, to the warnings she has received and chosen to ignore, to the words, "Let us go, this will be for the last time." At around 10:30, the balloon rises from the grass. The wind is strong. The craft climbs with difficulty, more slowly than usual. For a few minutes, Sophie disappears into the low summer cloud above the gardens. Then the balloon appears again, and the crowd sees her light the fuses for the fireworks that are meant to crown her ascent. But something goes wrong. Maybe the wind pushes the rockets back toward the balloon's envelope. Maybe the gas valve has been left open and sparks ignite the hydrogen. No one will ever know for certain. A flame bursts out at the top of the balloon. Down in the gardens, the crowd begins to applaud. Many of the spectators believe the fire is part of the show, but it is not. The hydrogen burns through the silk. The balloon shrinks and collapses. Sophie, still seated in her silver gondola, begins to fall. A British tourist named John Poole watches the ascent from the window of a hotel overlooking the gardens. Later, he writes down what he saw. After the moment of flame, there is a terrible silence. Then the figure of Madame Blanchard, tangled in the torn netting of her balloon, falls onto the sloping roof of a house on Rue de Provence. From there, she crashes down into the street below. She is buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. Her grave monument is a small pedestal topped with a sphere wrapped in flames, her balloon forever burning. The inscription reads, "Victim of her art and of her fearlessness." She has made 67 ascents. She has survived 2 empires, 3 changes of regime, a crossing of the Alps, a marsh that should have drowned her, and a fall that should have killed her 4 years earlier. She has given Europe its first lasting image of a person who seems to belong to the sky. The world does not forget her. Jules Verne mentions her in 5 Weeks in a Balloon. Fyodor Dostoevsky, in The Gambler, compares the tension of a person who has placed everything on one bet to the feeling Sophie Blanchard may have experienced as she was falling. Sophie belongs to that early, dangerous world without which later aviation would not have had its mythology. Her story reminds us that women were part of technological progress long before society gave them full recognition. In a world where technology, risk, and public fame almost always belong to men, Sophie established herself as a professional in a field that society did not expect to see in the hands of a woman. She did not risk her life once to prove something. She risked it again and again, flight after flight, until she turned courage into art. She did not run away from fear. She simply found the height where fear could no longer reach her.